Okay, so right now, in the modern NFL, we are at a very rare point where the action is just non-stop. Even when there aren't games going on, we as fans still have something to look forward to pretty much at all points. Since the millisecond the Super Bowl ended, the action has just been balls to the walls crazy, and we could not have asked for a better offseason. Literally, the season just ended like a month and a half ago, and the landscape of the entire NFL is completely changed. Some teams are now just contenders out of nowhere, some reloaded, and others literally did nothing at all. So although we have so many teams that are trying their best to reach the top of the throne, there are a few teams out there that are taking a completely different approach. But over the last couple of years, they've been scratching and clawing their way back into becoming a respectable franchise. Scratching, clawing, because they're Why did I write that into the script? So the Chicago Bears haven't really been doing that great with the resources they've been given over the past couple years, but this season, they were given the most valuable asset in all of football, being hand-delivered the first overall pick after the Texans did. I still have no words for this play. Anyway, now that they had the first overall pick, the Bears did just about the most they possibly could have done with it, as they went out and shopped it around the entire league and found a very, very valuable trade partner in the Carolina Panthers, where they got a ton of luxurious picks and a star wide receiver in DJ Moore. And the Bears also did more than that. They filled in a ton of holes that they had on defense, as well as one massive one where they were able to escape Roquan Smith's contract last year, and this offseason filled it with two very, very strong linebackers in TJ Edwards and Tremaine Edmonds. So this entire offseason was basically just built around, let's see what Justin Fields can do when he finally has a competent team around him, and a defense that's primed to be, at the very least, respectable, and an offense led by DJ Moore and Justin Fields and I guess maybe Khalil Herbert. We will finally get a real verdict on who Justin Fields is as a player, and can he lead the Bears to the top of the conference. But somehow, another sad excuse for a franchise in their own division just may have outdone the Bears this offseason. Behind closed doors, isolated from the rest of the NFL, the Detroit Lions have been building a steady culture, and things are really getting scary for the rest of the league. During this upcoming season, the Detroit Lions aren't just going to beat you. No. Much, much worse. You are going to suffer a slow, agonizing death through HB dives, Amon-Ra screen passes, and a punishing defense, one that they didn't have just last year. If this Lions team had a good defense last year, then they definitely would have made the playoffs. I mean, if it weren't for the Vikings having the worst defense in NFL history, the Lions would have gotten way more flack for it. So in order to fix this gaping hole in the secondary, they went out and picked up arguably the two strongest corners on the market in Cam Sutton and Emmanuel Mosley, as well as one of the best safeties in the entire NFL last year, be it by scheme fit or not, in Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, a guy who just, led the NFL in interceptions last year, so that probably will help the defense. Add on to that the continued development of young guys like DeAndre Swift, Aiden Hutchinson, James Houston, and just so much more. The Detroit Lions might have just added themselves to the ever-growing pool of contention in the NFL. But, of course, there is always a bigger fish, or dolphin in this case. Why do I keep writing? Last year was weird for the Dolphins, right? I mean, early on in the season, it looked like this team could have been very, very special, but a really bad Tua injury and a routine Teddy Bridgewater one basically just ended the year on the spot. And although they weren't able to beef up their O-line to stop the repeated headshot problem, they did the next best thing by taking a defense led by Javon Holland, Jalen Phillips, Xavier Howard, Melvin Ingram, Bradley Chubb, and Christian Wilkins, and added this guy to it. This is Jalen Ramsey, the best cornerback in the NFL. The Dolphins just picked up his $20 million guaranteed, acted like it was nothing, and gave away just a mere third-round pick for Jalen Ramsey's talents and are doing everything in their power to maximize the potential absurd amount of Hall of Famers this team might have. And if Jalen Ramsey wasn't enough for this team, they also went out and got defensive mastermind Vic Fangio out of semi-retirement, and we might just be looking at the next super team in the NFL. And you know, for every team that is a super team, there is going to be a lot of teams that at least try and do what they can to get to that level, but fail miserably. Take, for example, the Dallas Cowboys. They've done pretty well so far. They picked up Stephon Gilmore, pairing him with Trevon Diggs, basically forming the best cornerback duo in the entire league, and they also got Brandon Cooks, retained Tony Pollard, and Leighton Vander Esch. So this is all good and dandy, right? Oh, you know, the Cowboys having a good offseason, but what is this all for again? Because this guy is still in the NFL last time I checked. But even if these moves aren't good enough to propel these teams into contention, so many more teams made moves just like this. I mean, Darren Waller to the Giants, Derek Carr to the Saints, Baker to the Bucks, Eric Kendricks, Marcus Davenport, and so many more. These are all cool signings, and with an all-time amount of player movement, this was bound to happen, I guess, but I just worry these moves won't move the needle one way or another, but I hope I'm wrong. But even with all of these moves going on, all of this insane transactions, teams going from 0 to 100 power in seemingly weeks, somehow, one singular man took control of the entire offseason and still has it in a chokehold. For what feels like tens of years at this point, so many people have been speculating on what is next for Aaron Rodgers' career. After the Packers drafted Jordan Love a few years back, Packers fans had mixed reactions, but what people began to realize was that the sand was running low in the hourglass that was Aaron Rodgers' time with the Green Bay Packers. And now we're at a point where Aaron Rodgers is basically confirmed to go to the Jets, and I can't believe it, but he is doing the same thing that Brett Favre once did. But whatever. On the other side of this wild NFL drama, the Jets have quietly been doing just about everything they possibly can correctly. And although it wasn't this offseason, they've done a perfect job bringing in guys like Quinnen Williams, CJ Mosley, LaMarcus Joyner, Joe Flacco, and Kwame Alexander to make their defense something to seriously fear. It also doesn't hurt that they had a picture-perfect draft last year, bagging the Offensive Rookie of the Year in Garrett Wilson, and I hate to make this comparison, but a serious predecessor that just might someday overtake the crown of Darrelle Revis in Sauce Gardner. Add all that onto the fact that they're in New York, and the Jets might just be the hottest free agent destination over the next couple of years, and just maybe they paid off their debts from so long ago. And the crazy thing is, I know last year was a down year for Aaron Rodgers, but as Tom Brady has recently been showing us, age doesn't really matter for quarterbacks to a certain degree, and we can't forget how good Aaron Rodgers once was and how good he can be with the Jets this next season. This is the man who is a 10-time Pro Bowler, 4-time All-Pro, 4-time MVP, and Super Bowl champion in the most competitive quarterback era in NFL history. And this is all just on the surface of his Pro Football Reference page. And to prove how dominant Aaron Rodgers was and can be, I decided to throw away my entire Wednesday afternoon and track pretty much every MVP quarterback since 1978. And I gotta say, the results were pretty surprising. So here they are. If you want to know what stats I used, you can pause the video here to see a portion of my calculations, but as you can see, towards the bottom of the list, you got your more forgettable MVPs and guys you probably haven't even heard of before. But as you move up, you start getting into truly historical seasons. Then, in the top 10, things get serious, as we see some of the most efficient seasons ever. Then we go all the way to the top 3, where in the 3rd position, we see the untouchable season by Tom Brady, where he had one of the most efficient seasons ever as his team literally went undefeated in the regular season. But somehow, 2 seasons were statistically better than his. And yeah, Aaron Rodgers was a different beast. So if Aaron Rodgers can play like he did for the last 13 years of life itself, or I guess just hell the last 2 years, then the Jets just might have something special if they, officially sign the man, and I could honestly see a Super Bowl on the horizon. All right, we're done, Jets fans. I swear, you can clean up now. Also, the thing is, this offseason isn't even close to being over yet. Within the last hour of writing this godforsaken script, the Ravens just dragged Odell away from the local urgent care and are praying it's enough to persuade a certain quarterback from leaving the facility. Because if Lamar Jackson, this former league MVP, decides to just leave the Ravens on a random ass day, this offseason is going to get 20 times crazier. But for now, the door is still open for some even more wild moves to happen. But anyways, if you like this video, then subscribe, because I got a lot of videos on the channel just like this one. And if you like this video, then watch this video right here where I went over the biggest cheating scandal in NFL history. It's pretty good, trust me. Anyways, until next time.